Hello, traders and investors. Steve Gans here, and welcome to the weekend update for June 7th, 2025. Now, before I get into the update, two quick things. One, if you like this sort of content, please like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and/or any comments you might have that will help guide me with additional content going forward. And then secondly, toward the end of this section, I'm going to share a trade concept or a trade idea with you. And feel free to take a look at that. I'll include a link to OptionStrat so that you can simply click on that link and open up that particular trade so that you can study it, paper trade it yourself. So stay tuned toward the end of the weekend update for that trade suggestion and idea. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's take a look at the SPX, which we can see continues to power higher here. And some of those up days had very significant volume associated with them too, which is pretty bullish. Now, that said, we literally ended Friday right on that 6,000 mark. Many times those big numbers can be resistance areas. And as you can see, this also ties in with a prior support and resistance level. So it's going to be important if we're going to continue higher that we get through this week, that we maybe have a close on Monday that's going to be maybe 10, 20 points decisively above the 6,000 mark. If that happens, I think we're going to see another shot up, probably hitting these old highs here. So if not, if we end up closing below that 6,000 mark on Monday, then I think we're probably in for just a little more sideways chop, possibly a bit of a down move as well. But I would say nothing really dramatic or significant, unless, of course, there's something news-driven that blows us through all of these levels. And right now, I think that we're more likely to have news that would move us to the downside than the upside. I feel like a lot of the upside catalysts are already baked in here at this point. But again, the market is definitely in a bullish mode right now on the SPX. SPY, of course, is going to look exactly the same because it is just 1/10 of the main SPX index. It's, of course, an ETF. The volatility in the SPY is pretty darn low. So that's also a bullish sign. Now, that volatility is something that helps me decide the type of trade that I may want to consider here toward the end of this video. So again, stay tuned for that. Also, if we take a look at the Qs, very, very similar pattern, also rallied pretty hard here. What's interesting about the Qs is some of those down days have bigger volume than the up days had. So that's a little bit my overall bullish stance on the Qs. But again, the Qs also have broken out recently here. They've broken out above a prior area, and they could certainly continue to these old highs as well. So same thing kind of goes with the Qs that I said with SPY. Volatility for the Qs, also pretty darn low, not all-time recent lows, but definitely to the lower side of the equation. And then we have IWM or the Russell. Now the Russell showed a little bit of surprising strength here, popping out of this cup and handle pattern. So if you're not familiar with that pattern, many people will define this as a cup and then this little bit up here as a handle. And if we go sideways a day or two on that, it's likely to move higher. Cup and handles, more often than not, will tend to be an upside type of move that follow them. So again, I think on IWM historically is significantly weaker than what the others have been. But right now, it also is showing some strength. And volatility on Russell is pretty darn low as well. Okay, so now that we've kind of done that analysis, what type of position might I look at right now? Well, let's look at the factors here. I am bullish for the most part. I want defined risk. I pretty much always want defined risk in my trade, so that's going to be a second characteristic that I'm looking at. I want to buy things when they're cheap and sell things when they're expensive. Right now, we're going to be to the cheaper side because volatility is low. So I'm going to be more of a buyer of options than I would be a seller right now. So what might I look at? Well, I would look at a bull call spread in the Qs, or actually possibly the SPY. Remember, I think the SPY was maybe a little bit stronger, or even IWM, because IWM was breaking out in that cup and handle pattern. But the IWM hasn't built out the handle of that yet. If there was a couple more days on that handle, I'd feel a little better about that. So I'm going to look at a bull call spread. That basically means that I'm going to buy one option, in this case a call, and I'm going to sell a second option. And if we take a look at what this looks like at expiration, it's going to look something like this. So this trade as it currently exists here is going to have roughly a $243 debit. That debit would be my max loss in this trade. And I'm looking at a max profit of $256 and about a 42% chance of profit. So I like this general trade setup if, in fact, I think that we're going to break through that 600 and possibly move a little higher. But I may want to move this down just a little bit here. So by moving that down, there's a couple things you'll notice. One, I increased my debit a little bit, but I decreased my max profit. But what did I get by decreasing my max profit? I got a higher percent chance of profit. This is going to be more likely now to generate a profit by the end of the trade. So this is the balance that a trader can look at and decide using a tool like OptionStrat, for example. Well, at the end of the day, I feel like I want to be somewhere in between there. I'd like to be maybe in the middle. I'd like to have about a 50% reward to risk ratio on my trades. I think that tends to be a good way to kind of model these. So if I go with these strikes right here, I'm going to have a $260 debit, and I'm going to have a max profit potential of 240, and I have a reasonable chance of profit in this trade. So that's going to be the one that I am going to save here. And I'll go ahead, I'll save this trade, and I will copy the link. I'll share the link in the description down below. You do not have to have an OptionStrat account. Simply click on that link and it will open up this exact same page. And then you can come in and model this yourself. You can come in and say, well, gee, what if I did this? Or what if I did that? Now, I'm also using a June 16th expiration, which is about 9 days away. So I need this move to happen in a relatively short period of time also. So those are the parameters around this particular trade, and that's going to wrap up the weekend update. Now, those of you that are part of the alert service, and if you're interested in knowing more about my alert service, where I share all of the details on trades that I'm making for educational purposes, I'm putting a link on the screen for you down below. I like to keep that very inexpensive. It's $79 a month. And you'll get to see a video when I open a trade, exactly how I'm opening it, why I'm opening it, etc. And then how I manage it when it's open, and then when I close it. And just to give you a little bit of an idea here, there is a trade that I'm starting to trade in there pretty consistently. I'm calling this particular trade the Flyagonal. It's a combination of a fly, a butterfly, and a diagonal trade. So far, this thing is really doing well. I've had 10 winners and up $1,600 in those 10 trades. I've got 2 that are currently open. They're not closed, so they just show 0 right now, but both of those are currently up money. You're going to see that here in just a minute. So there will be a loss in here, I promise you, but overall, this trade is working quite well, and it's one that I plan on trading more of in the alert service. And again, I share all about that trade, how I enter it, how I adjust it if it's needed, when I exit it, etc. So again, if that's of interest to you, take a look at the alert service. Now, how did I choose this particular trade? I'm going to take just a minute to splice in something that I call my trade entry navigator. I also call it my cheat sheet. So watch this really short segment coming up. And if you'd like to have a copy of the cheat sheet, you'll have a chance to download that yourself as well. And that's what newer options traders might use as a way to try to narrow down and decide what sorts of trades they could or should be considering. Today's episode is brought to you by SJG Trades. At SJG Trades, we empower traders with proven strategies to generate consistent income through options trading, no matter the market conditions. Download our free 3-step trade entry cheat sheet to help navigate options trades like a pro. This is built from my 30 years of experience. This guide walks you through analyzing asset liquidity, volume, gauging market sentiment with key indicators, and selecting strategies that best match the current market conditions, all to execute smarter, more confident trades. Get instant access to this free resource at sjgtrades.com/cheat sheet. That's sjgtrades.com/cheat sheet, or click the link in the show notes. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Now let's get back to today's episode. All right, everyone. So hopefully the cheat sheet made a little bit of sense to you and you went ahead and downloaded that. But now let me show you the trades that are currently open in the alert service. So I currently have 3 trades open. This is a Flyagonal. This trade has been open just about a little over a week, and it is up 6% right now. And I have an order out there to take off the butterfly portion of this trade, which if our market opens in the general range it is now, that should probably hit on Monday. At that point, I'll have no risk of loss to the upside in this trade, and I'll have a nice downside tent that if we got any sort of backup in our market, it could be a much more profitable trade. Then there's this second Flyagonal. I just opened this one here on Friday. So this is a brand new one that just opened. And then I have this trade, which is in Lucid Motors. This is a LEAP, a long-term buy and hold position that is currently underwater and that I am continuing to monitor closely and evaluate. I may end up cutting that here fairly soon. I know I've said that for a couple of weeks now, but there are some things that are kind of keeping me hanging on, some various news items. But at some point here, probably at the latest by the end of June, I will make a decision on this to potentially cut it unless I start to see some spiking that I have been expecting for the past couple months that just has not happened. So that's going to wrap everything up here for the weekend update for June 7th, 2025. Again, if you find this content of value, please like, subscribe. And if you're interested in the alert service, I'll put that back down below as well. Take care, everyone.